Your phone vibrates. It's them. After weeks or maybe months of quiet, that familiar pull returns. Your chest feels tight. Your mind races. That mix of curiosity, hope, and worry isn't a flaw. It's the trap being set for you. Before you panic, before you text back anything, stop. This isn't just a simple check-in. This is a deliberate attempt, a manipulation. And if you reply without thinking, you're handing them power they haven't earned. If you're tired of being manipulated, pause, take a deep breath, and make a conscious choice. Is this worth the energy you have to give? Write boundaries in your notes. If you're ready to take back control and never let someone's toxic games disrupt your peace again, when your phone suddenly lights up with a message from someone who has been silent for days, weeks, or even months, it hits your nervous system like a powerful wave. This moment is not minor. It's not casual. It's not innocent. It's a mental shock that taps into your history with this person, the emotional training they've installed in you, and the lingering tension in your body. That first instant when you see their name appear is precisely where their power used to reside, the surprise, the confusion, the tiny spark of hope, the knot in your chest. These reactions are not accidental. They are the result of unpredictable cycles that trained you to stay alert, stay waiting, stay ready for the next move you couldn't guess. Silence followed by sudden contact is one of the strongest manipulation patterns because it destroys your feeling of emotional safety. The moment the message arrives, your mind starts searching for meaning. Why now? What are they looking for? Did they miss you? Are they returning? Should you answer? These questions surface automatically because inconsistent contact creates a psychological loop that keeps you tied to uncertainty. Narcissists take advantage of this exact moment. They rely on the fact that the shock will cloud your judgment just long enough for them to regain access to your emotional space. The urge for closure, the desire for an explanation, and the fantasy of getting back together all instantly reappear because silence didn't just remove them from your life, it created an empty space. And your brain hates empty spaces. This is why the first few seconds after their message matter more than the words in the message itself. It's where your emotional instinct kicks in before your logical mind can catch up. The overwhelming impulse to respond, to understand, to resolve, or to defend yourself often feels almost physical. That is the effect of being trained to respond to scarcity. They disappear, they come back, and your body reacts before your logic does. So when that message arrives, the shock is not simply surprise. It is the reopening of a wound you didn't fully heal, the activation of a pattern you didn't agree to, and the memory of a dynamic that once held power over your nervous system. Before you even think about typing a response to that unexpected message, it's vital to recognize what is truly happening. That text isn't a casual check-in or a friendly hello. It's a carefully timed probe designed to test your limits, gauge your reactions, and possibly reinsert them into your emotional space. The reason it all feels urgent or tempting to reply is that it is purposefully triggering your emotions. Periods of silence followed by sudden contact are a classic mental tactic. And it works because it exploits the human brain's strong desire for finality and certainty. You feel forced to engage because your nervous system interprets the arrival of their message as a sign that something important is at stake. And this is precisely what they depend on. When someone suddenly breaks their silence, they are essentially offering an invisible hand to see if you will take it. It's not about communication. It's about maintaining control. Your emotional reactions in that moment are being watched, even if only unconsciously by you, and they are intentionally set up to create a feeling of urgency, guilt, or longing. You may feel the need to justify your own emotions, explain why you acted the way you did, or even excuse their absence. All of these impulses are exactly the buttons they are hoping to push. The more emotionally reactive you are, the more influence they regain. That's why it is essential to step back and mentally separate the words of the message from the true goal behind it. The message itself may seem neutral or even harmless, but the context, months of silence, unpredictable contact, inconsistency, is what gives it power. Understanding this is the first step toward taking back control. By naming the strategy being used against you, you remove much of its strength. Realize that the text is a test of your boundaries, not a genuine sign of care. The urgency you feel is manufactured, and your duty in that moment is not to respond emotionally, but to choose thoughtfully. Your power lies in observing the message, without automatically giving in to the urge to engage, without explaining yourself, and without allowing the emotional turmoil they provoke to decide your next step. This awareness allows you to respond from a place of clarity rather than instinct, which is the foundation for any strategy that will truly protect your peace and self-governance. Narcissists thrive on unpredictable contact because it creates a constant state of uncertainty and emotional instability in the person receiving it. Unlike healthy relationships where expectations and boundaries are clear, intermittent contact generates a psychological loop that keeps you involved even when you logically know it's harmful. The sudden reappearance of a text after silence is not random. It is part of a pattern designed to bring out emotional responses and keep their influence over your mental and emotional state. By keeping you guessing about their intentions, they effectively maintain a form of control without direct conflict or honest communication. Because control is not just about what they say, but about the emotional reaction they cause. This pattern works because humans are driven to seek consistency and closure. When someone disappears without an explanation, it creates an empty space in your experience that your mind naturally wants to fill. When they suddenly return, your brain sees this as a chance to resolve the lingering tension, to make sense of their absence, and to restore balance. That emotional pull is exactly what they exploit. It triggers hope, anxiety, guilt, or longing. Emotions that can be highly motivating and difficult to resist, even if you intellectually understand that they have manipulated you before. The suddenness of contact activates deep-seated connections linked to attachment, making self-control incredibly difficult. The strategic use of intermittent contact also acts as a test of boundaries. By breaking silence unpredictably, they are essentially asking, will you respond? Will you react emotionally? Will you allow me back in? Every reaction you have, whether it is excitement, anxiety, or even restraint, gives them information about how much influence they still hold. This is why staying aware in the moment is crucial. Observing your emotional responses without acting on them lessens the power of the tactic. Recognizing the manipulation allows you to shift from being a player in their game to an observer with full control over your involvement. It changes the text from an urgent demand to a psychological experiment that you can respond to with intention rather than instinct. By understanding how intermittent contact works as a tool for manipulation, you can protect your emotional energy and make conscious choices instead of being drawn into a pre-planned trap. When a narcissist breaks silence and reaches out, the first and most important step is to notice and understand your emotional reaction. The feelings that surface, fear, longing, guilt, anger, or even a brief moment of hope are not random. They are the very triggers the narcissist means to activate. Your emotional responses are essentially the levers they use to pull you back into their world. These feelings can be intense and confusing because they are mixed with the history of your relationship, the patterns of manipulation you've experienced, and the bond your nervous system has formed over time. It is easy to mistake these feelings for genuine care or a desire to fix things, but they are often intensified reactions to a strategically planned event, their sudden message. Understanding your emotional response starts with observation. Pay attention to your body's signals, the tightness in your chest, the fluttering in your stomach, the sudden rush of thoughts that demand a reply. These physical and mental reactions are how your nervous system tells you that a pattern has been activated. Recognizing these signs allows you to separate your feelings from the manipulator's intentions. You start to see that your anxiety or longing is not a reflection of the relationship's reality, but a response to a carefully timed disruption designed to bring out exactly these reactions. By naming and labeling your emotions without judging them, you take back part of the power that the narcissist seeks to exploit. When you admit fear is fear, guilt is guilt, or longing is longing, you remove the illusion that these emotions must decide your actions. You gain the clarity to decide how to respond rather than being swept away by automatic reactions. Emotional awareness also allows you to recognize manipulative techniques such as overwhelming kindness, making you feel guilty, or subtle pressure hidden in the text. The more accurately you understand your responses, the less influence they have over your choices. In short, the key to resisting manipulation lies in identifying and owning your emotions, using them as information rather than as commands, and creating a space where your response is based on conscious decision-making instead of automatic reaction. Once you have recognized your emotional response, the next step is creating a strategy for replying that protects your boundaries and keeps your mental independence. The so-called strong reply is not about seeking revenge, being cruel, or trying to hurt the other person. It is about clarity, calm, and control. The purpose is to respond from a place of strength rather than feeling, ensuring that you are the one setting the terms of engagement instead of being pulled into their manipulative patterns. Creating this response requires a deep understanding of both your own boundaries and the tactics the narcissist uses to regain influence. It is a purposeful exercise in reclaiming control of your energy and attention. The strong reply works on several mental levels. First, it shows that you are aware of the manipulation, which instantly takes away the unconscious power the narcissist usually holds. When they realize their typical triggers, fear, guilt, longing, or hope, no longer cause the expected reaction, they lose their advantage. Second, it establishes clear boundaries. By choosing a concise, neutral, or non-reactive response, you signal that your peace and emotional energy are non-negotiable. You are communicating that you are no longer a participant in their games and that any future attempts to manipulate you will be met with consistency and detachment. This approach demands discipline and planning. It may involve taking time before replying, mentally practicing the wording, or even deciding not to respond at all. The key is to avoid the automatic emotional reply that plays directly into the narcissist's hands. The words chosen should convey acknowledgement without involvement, firmness without aggression, and clarity without explanation. Avoid justifications, apologies, or too much detail because these are exactly the hooks the narcissist relies on to pull you back into the cycle. In essence, the strong reply is a tool for mental self-defense. It is designed to protect your energy, maintain your boundaries, and prevent the reactivation of old patterns. It communicates strength without needing to attack, calm without needing to justify, and finality without needing to be mean-spirited. By mastering this technique, you turn a potentially unsettling moment into one where you keep control, assert your independence, and show that your emotional state is no longer available for manipulation. Keeping control of the story is a vital part of the strategy when a narcissist unexpectedly reaches out after a quiet period. This is less about controlling them and more about controlling yourself and the space you occupy emotionally and mentally. When a narcissist sends a message, they are trying to pull the conversation and, by extension, your attention into their preferred frame. Their goal is often to steer the interaction toward their own plans, whether it's creating guilt, causing an emotional reaction, or drawing you back into the relationship dynamic that previously benefited them. If you respond without intention, you risk letting them dictate the flow of your thoughts, feelings, and energy. Maintaining control over the story means recognizing that you are the one who decides how the interaction proceeds, not them. The first step in keeping control is to clearly define your own goals before engaging. Ask yourself, what is my purpose in responding, if at all? Am I seeking closure, setting limits, or protecting my emotional space? By clarifying your goal, you create a mental structure that prevents the narcissist from taking over your energy. This stops automatic, emotionally charged responses, which are exactly what they hope to cause. A controlled story relies on a conscious awareness of your emotions and the ability to pause before replying, giving you time to evaluate whether the communication matches your intentions and values. Another critical part is consistency. Once you determine the rules for engagement, how you will respond, what topics are off limits, and what behaviors you will not tolerate, it is essential to stick to them. Narcissists often test boundaries repeatedly to gauge how much control they still have. Consistency in your messaging and reaction signals that you are no longer an easily influenced participant in their game. Silence, short, neutral replies, or firm but polite boundary statements are all tools for asserting control without providing unnecessary emotional fuel. By keeping control of the story, you shift the balance of power. The conversation no longer centers around the narcissist's desires or manipulations. It focuses on your values, your boundaries, and your emotional well-being. This is the key to ensuring that any interaction is guided by intention rather than instinct, and it is the foundation for preserving independence, protecting your peace, and ultimately reclaiming authority over your own emotional world. Anticipating a narcissist's moves is an essential strategy when they reappear after a period of quiet. Once you understand that their sudden contact is not innocent, but a calculated attempt to regain influence, the next step is to predict how they might try to manipulate you. Narcissists often ramp up their tactics if they sense that their usual methods, guilt, emotional pleas, charm, or provocation, are not working. This escalation can take many forms. They may increase the messaging frequency, introduce subtle or obvious pressure, attempt to involve others to create a triangle effect, or play on your sense of loyalty or duty. By anticipating these potential moves, you are able to respond with awareness and composure rather than being caught off guard. The reason anticipation is so powerful is that narcissists rely on unpredictability to create emotional reactivity. The suddenness and intensity of their tactics are designed to bypass your rational mind, triggering old patterns of attachment or fear. When you can foresee these maneuvers, you take away the element of surprise, which reduces their ability to manipulate you. Anticipation allows you to prepare emotionally and mentally. So instead of reacting impulsively, you can choose a response that protects your boundaries and maintains your independence. It is not about outsmarting them, but about safeguarding your emotional state and creating a mental cushion that prevents automatic engagement. Preparation also involves rehearsing potential scenarios. You might imagine the kinds of texts or calls they could send, the guilt-laden statements or emotional appeals they might use, and how you will respond without risking your peace. This mental rehearsal strengthens your ability to respond from a place of calm control rather than being swept into the drama they hope to create. It also helps you recognize manipulative language and tactics as they happen, so you are less likely to be triggered by subtle emotional pressure. By anticipating their moves, you take back a measure of power that they usually seek to undermine, You are no longer responding blindly to emotional hooks. Instead, you are observing, assessing, and deciding with intention. This foresight turns moments that could be unsettling into opportunities to assert your boundaries, protect your energy, and maintain mental freedom, even when they try to draw you back into old patterns. Recognizing the need for a momentary pause, or more simply, a time to stop and focus yourself, is a powerful technique when dealing with a narcissist's sudden contact. This step is not about engaging them, it's about reclaiming your attention and creating a conscious point of choice in your emotional experience. When a narcissist reaches out after silence, the immediate impulse is often to react quickly, driven by the emotional charge their message creates. A deliberate pause, whether physical or mental, acts as a checkpoint where you remind yourself that your energy is yours to manage. It breaks the automatic reaction of anxiety, hope, or guilt, and shifts the focus from the narcissist's agenda back to your own priorities and boundaries. This moment of conscious intervention allows you to step out of the reactive loop that narcissists thrive on. By asking yourself a simple question, is my emotional energy worth giving away right now? You create a mental space where intention overrides instinct. The purpose is to change an emotionally charged situation into one of clear choice. This pause can take the form of a literal moment of silence before replying, doing a grounding exercise, writing down your feelings, or even sharing your progress with others in a supportive setting. Whatever the method, the key is that it restores your ability to act and interrupts the manipulative cycle that unpredictable contact is designed to cause. The conscious pause also serves a mental function of accountability. By clearly stating your boundaries and acknowledging your own power, you reinforce to yourself that you are not obligated to respond, explain, or justify your emotional state. This strengthens a pattern of intentional engagement that is difficult for a narcissist to break through. In essence, it becomes a protective practice, a conscious reminder that your attention, time, and emotions are not available for manipulation. Finally, incorporating this pause strengthens your resilience over time. The more consistently you create these conscious checkpoints, the less sensitive you become to emotional takeover. Over time, you fully understand that your peace, clarity, and boundaries are non-negotiable, and any attempt by a narcissist to disrupt them can be met with calm, deliberate choice rather than automatic reaction. This is a central foundation in reclaiming power and maintaining psychological control.